And dare we use the term must-win weekend? Use whatever language you're comfortable with, because we've certainly got head-to-heads. That's an objective fact. And I think it is the biggest weekend in the relegation battle. Let me just set this up for you, Matt, for what's actually happened this round, because we're building up to next weekend. It's Leicester, Everton, and Southampton versus Ipswich. So we've got two of the promoted teams from last year, the lowest ranked two promoted teams from last year, going head to head. And we've got Leicester, the other promoted team, going against the team that are currently bottom of the table. First of all, have you got any cause for optimism here? Because there's yin and yang, there's good and bad for Leicester and Ipswich. The good news is they've both gone away and put points on the board this round. Ipswich have got a clean sheet as well, and maybe a breakout performance from Aro Muric in goal. Talk about Leicester first, though. Leicester were 2-0 up at Palace and ended up succumbing to a 92nd minute penalty, which was a bit of a dopey one from Connor Cody as well. And you can see in his face, he knew it was as well when that went down. So on the one hand, you're really pleased to go away to a team like Palace and, get a draw away from home, bring them back for the home game. Can you beat them, take 4 points off them? You do that against enough teams, happy days. But you're 2-0 up and you concede that late penalty. Where are you on Leicester? Are you more positive with the point going into the big game against Everton, or are you still thinking about the bad news?
It's a bit of both, isn't it? I think we're quite fair on the channels, aren't we, Ben? And let's be honest, it's a point which is good in the Premier League, away from home as a newly promoted team. But as you say, 2-0 up. And it's also going to be a question of where are Palace going to be at the end of the season? Because if Palace don't get away from this and they're in there, it's even more of a disaster. But if you've dropped points to a team that finishes in the top 10, it's not so bad, if you see what I mean. Like I say, looking at these games on paper, Ipswich's draw at Brighton is really, really good considering how good Brighton have been so far this season. Palace have started slow, so it was an opportunity, and Leicester did pounce on that opportunity. I think there's definitely positives to take. It'll be, looked on as 2 points dropped, but Vardy's up and running because I think that's 2 goals for him now for the season. Mavadidi made it 2. I think the problem ultimately is they conceded literally a minute after they made it 2-0. And they never really established that 2-goal buffer. So it was back to 1. And then right at the end, Palace are pushing. Palace are not a bad team, but they've not started the season all too well. So I think time will be the best indicator on how to judge this result. If Leicester follow it up with something, in particular a win against Everton, then it wasn't so bad. But if they now lose the Everton game, then it's like, the Palace game was even worse than we thought. So I suppose time will tell.
Yeah, context is king on that. You're right. And you're totally right to say that Ipswich going to Brighton, given how Brighton have started, how Hertzler has started as the manager there. I'll be very honest about this. As an Ipswich fan, could have been away from Ipswich, kind of like the Liverpool and Man City games when in the first half could have been 2-3-0. But they hung in there. And what I am liking about Ipswich, Matt, is you and I saw a swashbuckling possession attacking team last year. They look, Ipswich, like they've learned to do the counter-attacking style, to do the sit back, use Delap and Hutchinson pace on the break. And, I don't want to go in 2-footed on Southampton, but we're seeing other teams who are very sticking sturdy to what they did in the Championship, whereas Ipswich are kind of pivoted a little bit. Look, you would have taken a 0-0 draw and a clean sheet at Brighton before the game. So they did hang in there, but surely that's a positive for Ipswich, even though they're still on 0 wins.
Yeah, absolutely. The Premier League is so unforgiving, and it can be your first 5 or 6 games, which can ultimately relegate you if you didn't pick up enough points and then you improve, but it's too late, if you see what I mean. And that could be the case with Southampton. I don't want to write them off early because there is a big game coming at the weekend, but 2 points from 4, considering who those 4 games were against for Ipswich, it's a really decent start. And I know it sounds silly, really, doesn't it? Because you've got to be close to a point per game, and 2 points from 4 is obviously zero point 0.5. But the context, as you say, is king here. And Manchester City and Liverpool, I thought you played relatively well. I don't necessarily thought you were going to win those games, but
No.
a decent draw against Fulham, a very good point now against Brighton. I think it is the best result so far this season, a really solid point, and I am just rubbing my hands together for the fixtures at the weekend. Wouldn't it just be so typical after such a good week this week? And
I know what you're about to say.
Intriguing fixtures coming that we get a load of nil-nils.
Yeah,
because
I knew you were going to say that.
We've got go on.
Well, let's just round it out with Southampton, Matt, because as much as people are a bit unkind to Russ Martin coming on in front of the camera saying, oh, this was good, that was good, the other was good, they were good for the first 30 minutes of this game, and they should have taken the lead. Free shot from 12 yards, missed the penalty, and then obviously they go under 3-0. And I mean, I'm having this as an Ipswich fan as well, Matt, where you're sitting and saying positive, 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 and then all someone has to say is, yeah, you haven't won any games, mate. And it's a bit like that. But there were, and we said this in Ipswich Liverpool, didn't we, where there were positives for 50 minutes, and then Liverpool, frankly, could have won 4-0, couldn't they? So what have you got to say about Southampton? And can you get anything from that first 25, 30 minutes? That face says no.
The thing is, Ben, every point in the Premier League is so precious if you've just come up. And I mean, like, every single point. So to take 2 points from 4 games for Ipswich and Leicester, they are moving. And I know Southampton are only 1 win away from overtaking them. But it just shows that Leicester and Ipswich have that little bit more steel, maybe that little bit more know-how at the moment to know what to do to get these points over the line. Because as you say, Southampton, they're not necessarily playing bad football, but good teams can go down from the Premier League because it is such a harsh league. I thought they played quite well as well. But yeah, maybe the penalty miss and knocks the confidence, and then you're 2-0 down before half time, and that was really going to be a mountain to climb. I think as well with the red card, I really didn't like that challenge from Stevens. I know he's not hurt Garnacho, but you don't go in like that and then they go and lose 3-0. They've got to get things sorted going into this weekend because it is a massive, massive game. Already this early on in the season, I would consider this a 6-pointer. It's just difficult, isn't it? Like I say, it's too early to write Southampton off because at the moment there's so many teams that have not got moving, but it's not, the best sign so far. So it's not very encouraging right now.
So our bumper weekend next week then, Matt, you have Leicester playing at home to Everton. So Leicester are currently they're the top of the clutch of teams with 0 wins. And obviously Everton are at the bottom of it. You would suggest that Everton have better players and a massive Premier League tenure, but is that equaled out by the ridiculously fragile confidence they must have at the moment and Leicester's home advantage? And then Southampton versus Ipswich is so big, and you have already nailed it. This can't be a draw. That is absolutely no use to either team. Some unhelpful draw in here. It's a massive weekend. I hope you're wrong about double draws, but how do you see it playing out? And who do you think? I know you're going to do the predictions with Sophie early in the week coming up, so don't completely give the game away on that. But who do you think is most likely to be coming away maybe with that first win? And let's be frank, Matt, every one of these 4 teams has this fixture circled, and every one of these teams' fans are going to be saying, this is our easiest game so far. This is our best chance of win. And they're all going to be right as well. Yeah,
it's such a big weekend. Another thing I'm just going to mention before we talk about these 2 fixtures is that Wolves and Palace are still winless as well. And as much as you're concentrating on your own fixture, for now, you hope they don't get their first win, because if you're one of these newly promoted teams, you want as many teams involved in this relegation sandwich as possible to give yourself as big a chance as possible to get out of this. Because as painful as things have been for Everton so far, and as frustrating as it's been and as bad it has been at points, you don't want it to be a shootout between yourselves and Everton because they have that experience to get out of it. You want to suck the rest in. But looking at these fixtures, you have to beat the teams around you. You really, really do. The pressure is more so on the home teams, I would say. I mean, the pressure is on everyone here. but Leicester are at home to Everton. I agree. I don't see how a draw is good for either of them. And then the same for Southampton, Ipswich. Southampton, in terms of points, have the biggest need to get that first win. So too to Everton, but they are away from home. I really can't call it right now, Ben. I know I'll do predictions, but I've not got the best track record. So don't ask me. I would be very nervous if I was a supporter of any of these teams, Ben.
There you go. He's straight batted that one away, hasn't he? Look, it's going to be a brilliant weekend. We'll clip that one out as well. Get in the comments if you're going to one of these games. Let us know what you're expecting, and let us know what your stiffener is on the train before you get to this one, because you're blooming well gonna need it. A brilliant weekend in the relegation zone already. Get your thoughts in via the comments on must win head to head relegation roulette, part one of many this season.